Welcome back to the IE427 garage, everybody. Today we're working on Jim's car. We are working hard to get this thing finished so we can get this car back to Jim. All right, everybody, I have to admit I was bad yesterday about filming, and although I did film the intro, which you guys just saw, I didn't film any content yesterday. I kind of got into a rhythm of doing stuff, and before I knew it, it was time for dinner, and I went in for dinner and fully expected to come out to the shop after dinner and film, and didn't. So I'm going to see if I can walk you through some of the stuff that I got completed yesterday. Let me grab my spectacles here. So we'll start over here on the passenger side since I'm already here, and see if I can grab a flashlight. And so you can see where we ended up mounting our inertia switch up in there. So the inertia switch is mounted, and we went ahead and we ran the wires up with our pigtail for our battery charger. So that's all nice and neat. Over here, I ended up mounting the switch, the reset switch for the gauges right here. So I made a bracket that bolts to the bottom of the dash, and so that reset button is right here on the bottom. You can see we still got one kind of unattended hole in the bottom of the dash. I think I'm just going to leave that because I think at some point Jim is probably going to have us pull the dash off, clean up everything behind it, probably relocate both of these heater eyeballs to some under dash panels. And so I think we'll probably be getting the car back. If not, you know, it's better than it was. Sometimes on stuff like this, you just have to draw the line and tell yourself, you know, you can't fix everything as much as I'd like to without pulling off the dash. Some of that stuff is just not easy to get to. So over here on the dash, at the end of the dash, you can see what we did right here. We put these plastic buttons. These are just like automotive upholstery fasteners. These are smooth. They do have some that have a textured finish, but when the doors close you can't see them. I just wanted to cover up those holes. So that's done. The fuse box is mounted back underneath, and normally I would mount these with screws, but someone used number 10 self-tapping screws to mount it, and I didn't want to have to put that big a screw in again. So what I ended up doing is I just pop riveted it. And if the fuse box ever has to come out, it's not that hard to drill out, you know, 3 or 4 pop rivets. So that's done. We cleaned up the wires that were hanging down below, so that's all squared away. The steering wheel is in permanently now. We've got it adjusted, so there's just a little bit of space between the surface of the dash and the back of the steering wheel hub. So that's all good. And then, of course, all the gauges are back in the car. So the tachometer's back in the car and fastened in. The fuel gauge is back in, and the clock. All those had to come out in order for us to get our work done behind the dash. So those are all squared away. Here in the back of the car, the trunk was easy. There was... Oh, I've got the car cover in here. Let's pull that out. So I've got a couple of parts in here that we used during the build. We've got the old coolant temperature sensor. I don't know what these clips are, but they were in the car, and so we're going to keep those. The adjuster for the throttle cable was in the trunk, and so I put that in a bag. So basically everything that we had that was left over that I think Jim should hold on to went in a bag, and then he'll get all those back. The cover got pop riveted back on here. I did not and I'm going to stress this to all of you, do not silicone that on. It just makes it harder if you ever want to access the fuel pump. Most of you guys are going to carpet your trunk anyways, and fasten this with some machine screws and rivet nuts. But if you're not, and you're just going to rivet it on, just don't silicone it. It's not going to rattle. It'll be fine. So that one's done. This one's done. And then where our old battery cable went through the floor, I just made a simple rectangular block off plate with a couple of pop rivets and sealed off that hole. So that's done. And then I just kind of wiped down the inside of the trunk with some multi-purpose cleaner and a rag just to clean it up a little bit. So the trunk is pretty much all squared away. I'll put the car cover back in after I'm done with you guys. Let me see if I can lower the car down, and I will show you what we got finished underneath the hood of the car. Okay. So here, if you remember, we made an access to the top of the foot box, and I made a cover. So that cover is now in place. What I did is I fastened it with some trim screws, so some black washers, stainless steel screws. These are number 8 screws. And then I mounted the Factory 5 VIN tag for Jim because he wanted that installed in the car, so that's a nice spot for it. It doesn't have to be permanently mounted because the VIN, or the chassis number in this case, is actually engraved in the frame. And then while I was here, I went ahead and I put a strap for our accelerator cable. That's just keeping everything in place so it doesn't move. So everything pretty much under the hood is done now. And what I'm working on today are the sill plates. So the sill plates are these, and they mount right here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim those so they fit underneath the edge of the body here. And I just found out that, yep, there's a bed liner underneath this too, which is going to make it suck. But we'll clean that off, and then I'm going to carpet the sill plates before they go in. And then I will either pop rivet or screw them, most likely pop rivet them. And then the carpet will fold over those, and then on this side, I grabbed some of this metal stair nosing or stair trim, and this is kind of a bronze color. And we're going to cut a section of that, and we're going to mount that from this point here to this point here to keep this from folding away from the car. So that's what I'm working on today. And then we did add one thing to our list, because I have not yet lube the front end or the rear control arms, so I want to make sure that that gets done. I'll do that probably when we go to put the spinners on the wheels, and I'll have the front wheels off the car anyways. It'll make it easier to lube the front end. So I think that's it for now. I'll bring you back when I've got some of this stuff done. All right, everybody, much later in the day, I'm going to see if I can't get the lift lowered down. And then, it's a long reach. Ugh. Okay. Show you the progress. First, let's go over the list. I'm down to about 4 items on the list now. So I still have to corner weight the car. The wheel spinners are going to have to go on. Obviously, the car is going to need to be cleaned up and detailed. I've been doing my best as I'm finishing up the interior to vacuum out the inside of the car, but it'll probably get vacuumed one more time. And then, as I said earlier, I put to lube the front end and the rear control arms on my list, because I'd like to get that done before we finish up Jim's car too. So, inside the car, we've got the seats mounted. They are bolted down. They are in where they belong to. I have the front piece of carpeting in. This piece of carpeting right here had worked its way loose before we even got the car here in the shop. So it was basically just loose, and I think it was thrown in the trunk. I can't remember. But we we removed the jute padding that was in there, and we went ahead and just glued that piece directly down to the Dynamat, or the heat and sound mat that's in the car. So that's done. We have our door sills all carpeted. We have the door edge trim. This is the door edge trim. This is the plastic or vinyl rubber material that goes over the edge of the door here so you don't muck up the paint. I always like to put a couple rivets in. I put one at the head of this end, and I put one at the head of this end. And then what I normally do is right here in the center, I put one, and then I split the difference in between that one and this one, and I put one right here. And that just keeps you from kicking it off with your foot as you get in and out of the car. It'll stay in place. You don't need to worry about it back here because you're generally not getting in and out of the car from this portion of the door. So that's done. What else? I think as much as that much effort as that took to get all that stuff done, it doesn't it doesn't appear like I did a whole lot. But I worked all day on this stuff, and I got it all squared away. I gotta get that strap right there for the front submarine belt all squared away. But here's the other side, same thing. We've got the door edge molding. I did I used some of this stair tread, and this is a bronze finish. I don't know. I wrote on the Facebook page when I just did the update, I'm kind of digging it. In the older cars, the carpet wrapped this area right here. In all of the Mark IVs that we've done for quite some time, the piece of carpet here on the top is separate from the piece of carpet that goes on the side inside the car. And I think that's just poor design. Because when it wrapped over, we didn't have any issues with the carpet getting pushed off the edge. And now, you know, you glue it in, and after about 6 months of use, the car owner's complaining that the carpet's coming off the corner. So this might be the alternative. Now, I've seen other guys use this material and wrap it all the way up this side. I tell you, I think we're just going to put it here, because I think it actually looks okay, and it's going to do exactly what we want it to do. It's just going to keep this edge from fraying or being kicked away from the chassis. And so from over here, you can see how it looks from this side. And I just used some black trim screws to hold them on. So 3 screws hold them on. So if you need to pull it off to do anything, you can pull it off. But I think that's going to do it until probably tomorrow night when I get home from work. I'm going to see if I can't work on getting the front end lubed, the rear control arms lubed. Well, I've got the front wheels off. I'll check everything in there, make sure everything's tight. I'll do the same thing in the rear of the car, make sure all the 3-link bolts and brackets are tight. And then I'll probably throw it up on the scales, and then probably the following night, it'll just be a matter of cleaning up the car and getting it ready for Jim to pick it up. So we should be able to do all that in this video. We'll see how it goes. But that's going to do it for tonight. So I'll see you guys tomorrow night. All right, everybody, next night. Well, it's all done. Short of a good cleaning and some detail, it's finished. The last things that we did today was we went through the front suspension and we lubed everything. So all of the lower, the upper control arms, the ball joints, all that stuff got lubed. In the back, I did end up having to change one of the grease fittings. And this is not the first time I've had to do this with the older style tubular Factory 5 lower control arms for the rear. I don't know what they did when they manufactured those. It's almost like they made some half-hearted attempt to thread them, and then they just kind of forced the grease zerks in there, because this is not the first time I've had one strip out. Literally, and I hate using that word, as I put the grease gun connector onto the grease zerk, the greaser just like fell out, and I'm like, oh man. So I had to drill it out to the next size and retap the hull and put a new grease zerk in. But that's done. So those are all greased and ready to go. I'm probably going to take the car and start it up tomorrow. I do still need to reconnect the battery. And then I'm going to roll it out of the shop and then pull it back in straight just to make sure that our steering wheel is straight. I mean, right now our steering wheel's turned, but then so are the wheels. So if we straighten out the steering wheel, our wheels are nearly perfect. But I want to double check it just in case. I want to give Jim, the car back, especially since Jim does wheels and tires for a living. I want to make sure that at least that's right for him. Not that everything else isn't as well. But we put the car up on the scales as well. I'll insert those scale numbers right here. All right, so you can see from those numbers that we ended up with something that was really close. I mean, you're just not going to get much better than 49.9% on your cross weights or your corner weights. So we're pretty happy with those. Short of a good wipe down cleaning, one last vacuuming of the interior, this one is all set to go back to Jim. Now, I would have loved to taking this out and put some road miles on it, just to double check everything. But quite honestly, everybody, the engine is running like garbage, and it's not something that we're going to address here in the shop. Jim has someone that is, I guess, a carb guru for these Weber stacks. He's going to take a look at those. I think there might be some other underlying problems that I've discussed with Anthony that we kind of saw when we were doing the refire of the car. But I'll pass all that information along to Jim, and Jim can relay that to his mechanic, and they can figure out a game plan on what they want to do. I think the bottom line is that the engine just sat for so long, and it had never been properly broken in or properly run. And my feeling is some of the seals and whatnot in the heads may have dried out, and so those things are going to have to be addressed. I think we might even have some sticking valves. So like I said, this is stuff that I'm going to pass on to Jim, and he can pass those on to his mechanic, and they can address them. But everything that that we were left to take care of is now done. And we're looking forward to delivering the car to Jim, and hopefully he'll have many years of fun use out of the car. All right, so that's going to do it for this one. This has been a fun project. Working for someone that you've known for more than half your life is it can be stressful, but at the same time it can be very rewarding, and that's what this has been. Working through this project with Jim and cultivating our friendship, more than it was before, has really been a gift. And so I'm looking forward to getting this car back to Jim and having him enjoy it. So if you guys are enjoying the content, please do the like, the share, the subscribe, all that kind of stuff. We appreciate every view. We'll see you next time. Have a great day.